1980 Hot Wheels. A whole bunch of new castings to collect for 1980. We're going to look at an entire complete collection of 1980 Hot Wheels, all variations included as well. Pricing and details on everything that you would want to know about this collection of cars. As we move forward through the years of Mattel's ever popular 1/64 scale die-cast cars, we'll look at high rakers in the back, construction vehicles, the entire Mainline series, rare variations, price guides, a couple of Scorchers. I am missing 4 out of 6 Scorchers for 1980, so not a complete series on that. However, I do have the complete Wisconsin Toy Company promotional gas station cars you could buy, and we'll look at those as well as some extremely super rare trucks from the Great American Truck Race playset of the era. I do not have the playset, but the trucks are the harder piece to find, and we'll look at why those are just worth so much and so hard to find. Before we get into the detailed price guide and variations, let's look at the names of each of these vehicles and which series they are from. 1980 marked the last of the original Redline wheeled vehicles. Thanks to Wisconsin Toy Company, they put out 4 of these cars, only available in baggies. And they are not overly hard to find, really, but in mint condition you should expect to spend anywhere between $10 and $25 each, depending on the models. The Swing and Wing is probably the least popular. The Volkswagen would be the most popular. Mattel continued the Scorchers lineup of cars through 1980 and on into 1981. However, I only have 2 of these Scorchers vehicles out of the 6 that were released in this year. The Quick Lightning on the left and the Fire Chief car. Each of these featured a second variation in a different color with a different name. Not pictured is the 55 Chevy, also featured 2 paint variations. These cars are quite hard to find in mint condition, let alone at all. And I personally would be willing to spend anywhere in the neighborhood of $25 per car. It's hard to put a real value on these things because they are not really collected by too many people. I should note before we get into the details of all these vehicles that only Hong Kong bases existed for 1980, as they would in 1981 as well, but we'll get to that at a later video. So if you do have any of these vehicles, and you will see them with Malaysia base, they were released in 1982. Many of these cars and trucks, identical versions, were released in 1982 with the Malaysia base versus the 1980. Most often the base variations do not reflect a difference in value. However, for some vehicles it is hard to find the Hong Kong base, and in some other cases the Malaysia base. Only the most diehard of collectors will know about these things to this day and are willing to spend an increase in monetary value for such a variation, as most people just don't care anymore with all the different Hot Wheels that are out there to collect. Volkswagen, Swing and Wing, Dune Daddy, Warpath, and what little I have from the Scorchers selection, Quick Lightning and Fire Chief car, Baja Breaker, Bubble Gunner, Bywayman, Corvette Stingray, Dumpin' A, Flatout 442, GMC Motorhome, Hot Bird, and another Hot Bird. Inside story, several variations. Jaguar XJS, Neat Streeter, Packin' Pacer, Rockbuster, Spoiler Sport, Stutz Blackhawk, Super Scraper, Supervan, Tricar X8, Teetotaler, Upfront 924, Turbo Mustang, Z-Wiz, Porsche 911, Greyhound MC8, Highway Hauler, Cat Bulldozer, Cat Dump Truck, Couple variations. Cat wheel loader. Cat forklifts. Got two of those to look at. Peterbilt cement mixer. We're going to look at these in just a moment, but we've got some more Peterbilts and some more highway haulers. Extremely rare variations. Now on to the high Rakers. 3-window 34. 40s Woody. Dodge D50. Two variations. 63 split window Corvette Stingray. Turbo Wedge. Vet Van. The two rarest vehicles you can find for 1980 were the Hammer Down and Moving On. Other than the stickers that are on these trucks to identify them, they would basically look the same as the Peterbilt cement mixer and the highway hauler. In between these two very rare vehicles in the foreground, I have just some beat up old versions, the Peterbilt cement mixer and the highway hauler missing its plastic back box and third axle, which is part of the plastic back box. So anytime you find this vehicle or this vehicle in extremely played with condition such as this, oftentimes that is missing as just a couple plastic rivets hold it on. Now with the Hammer Down and the Moving On, both of these stickers cover up the exact same spot as these ones here with the holes. You can see there's a slight dent in my Moving On, and you can see the imprint of the circular holes underneath the stickers on both vehicles. They also have the ATRA, American Truck Racing Association sticker on the back. Now if you find these vehicles without any of these stickers or with only one of the stickers, they will be reduced in value greatly. This matching set of trucks I bought from a very respectable seller on eBay several years ago. I did pay top dollar for them. However, I have never seen them come up for sale since, other than when people try to pass off a beat up old play with $2 truck as these two. Now do not buy these if they don't have a sticker unless you're only paying $1 or $2 for them. Very common vehicles. The price is in the sticker. Each of these trucks are worth well over $100 with those stickers on them, and they have to be authentic. You need to be able to verify that these are the actual stickers and not reproductions. These trucks will always feature a Hong Kong base and should have both stickers on them. Certainly they won't be perfect as they were applied in mass numbers back in the time when you could get the Great American Race Truck play set. Unfortunately, that set is extremely hard to find, but if you do find it, chances are you won't be getting these trucks with it. So it's kind of a two-part purchase. I am looking for the Great American Race Truck set to complement these two vehicles, which are the more expensive piece of the whole thing. But just to reiterate, these trucks are very common without the stickers. Do not spend more than a couple dollars for played with versions. The Baja Breaker debuts with a brand new color, similar tempo as seen previously when it was painted silver. Still has the black plastic opening hood, all metal base and body. No longer does it have the separate windows on the back. You can see where the original vehicle would have had a pillar between those two louvered windows. Now you can only get the one window variety. However, a very rare variation exists with an olive green ribbon behind the Baja Breaker. The tampo does not feature any blue at all, as is seen in the common version. This variation is worth between $100 and $200 if you can find it in mint condition. It's extremely hard to find. The blue ribbon variation, which is the common one, as I had said previously, is quite easy to find, but in mint condition, you're probably still going to spend around $20 to $25 for this van, although chipped up versions are readily available. The Bubble Gunner gets a fresh paint of green paint for 1980. Last we saw it, it was maroon for 1979. Prices for this vehicle are around $15 to $20 in mint loose condition. The Bywayman also gets a fresh green paint job for 1980. Last we saw it with the same exact tempo, it was blue in 1979. This vehicle is still a interesting piece to add to your collection, and in mint condition will run you around $15 to $25. The Corvette Stingray comes out now in orange. Last we saw it was red, and it has appeared in several colors with a very similar tempo on it over the last few years. Still featuring Blackwall wheels. Gold Hot One wheels will be later released, but for this Blackwall wheel version in 1980, it's a pretty common car and can be found for around $10 to $15 in mint loose condition. The Dumpin' A gets a new paint color for this year, now orange. Still features the same tampos as in previous years. The only difference being that the dump box now is yellow instead of orange, and the body color is now orange instead of yellow. Pretty easy vehicle to find. Even in mint condition, this should only run you around $10 to $15. The Flat Out 442 now has a new yellow paint color on it instead of orange as seen previously. Still the same tampos as is the case with a lot of the vehicles in 1980. From carryover castings, the Flat Out 442 does still have the blue pentagon forward of the back wheel. This time variations don't exist until the Malaysia-based release of 1982, where the pentagon was eliminated, and a gold Hot One wheel version of this car will be released in the future. For now, the Blackwall wheeled version with the blue pentagon, yellow paint, this car will set you back around $25 to $30 in mint loose condition. Also hard to find in mint condition is a Hong Kong-based GMC motorhome, still featuring the same tampos of the orange motorhomes from years past. This one features a chrome plastic base and a wonderful green paint job. This vehicle will run you around $25 to $30 to find in mint loose condition. Even more expensive on many occasions than the Hammer Down and Moving On trucks from the Great American Playset, these two Hotbirds are among the rarest cars from 1980. Also due to their popularity, but the brown version is extremely scarce. The blue version, not common either. I bought this one for $40 several years ago, but I've seen it sell for well over $100 on multiple occasions in mint loose condition nowadays. The brown version I spent $230 on. This is a hard car to find without any flea bites or chips or discoloration of the windows. The only flaw is a slight malchroming of the back wheel, but that's barely anything really to worry about. I have seen this car sell upwards of $250 in the last couple of years, and sometimes bargain price of $150. Either way, these two Hotbirds are hard to add to your collection, as they barely ever come up in good condition, and when they do, it is a feeding frenzy amongst vintage Hot Wheel people on eBay looking for them. If you should find these cars at a local flea market, count your blessings. One of the most interesting but least known variations of 1980 occurs on one of the least interesting vehicles, the Inside Story. This van features the yellow paint and same tampos as the original silver van. However, an interesting tampo variation does exist. If we look at this van here, it has a little starburst forward of the red arrow. This one is kind of a gradient blue-green. However, if you should have one that is solid green, it would be a very rare variation. That one's kind of an in-between. As you can see on the common version, the blue starburst is extremely bold, just as the rest of the blue tampo is. From the old HotWheelCollectors.com website, I was alerted to the fact that there is a green starburst tampo variation. I have no pricing for such a variation. However, I have found, and when I was looking extensively for it, this was the closest I could get with the gradient blue-green variation. If you have an all-green starburst, it would be a very hard van to find. Pricing on it is hard to say though, because people aren't really collecting inside stories and spending a lot of money on them. The other variation that I found was a dark blue window tint. Keep in mind these are all Hong Kong based variations, So this is not a year-to-year change, as this van would be released later with a Malaysia base. Pricing on these vans is typically around $10 to $15 in mint loose condition. A really cool casting, the Jaguar XJS makes its first appearance in the Mainline after its 1979 debut in the Gold Chrome Golden Machine series of vehicles, 6-pack exclusives only. This blue XJS is a tough one to find, as well as all XJSs that are in loose condition with a nice tampo on the side, as the Leopard is prone to being wiped out of its spots from even minor play wear. This Jaguar should run you around $15 to $20 in this sort of condition. The Neat Streeter makes a return, not seen since the 1970s in its Super Chrome format. It still has the same tampos as back then. Ford oldie but a goodie. Now featuring a nice burgundy paint job. This car is really sweet. It will run you around $15 to $20 in this condition. Packin' Pacer makes a return, this time with an orange paint job. Same tampos as the 1978 version, which had yellow paint. Look out for a gold Hot One wheeled version of this vehicle, forthcoming in 1982. But for now, this one only featured Blackwall wheels, the Hong Kong base, and will be worth around $15 in mint loose condition. Unfortunately, mine has a little nick on the door. The Porsche 911 now has a new paint job. We've seen this car before in several different paint variations. This is a really nice racing paint job on this car. It will be seen later on with gold Hot One wheels. For now, this car is worth around $10 to $15 in mint loose condition. Rockbuster makes its third recolor appearance now for 1980 with green paint. Same tempo as seen back into the 70s on the Super Chromes and when it featured yellow enamel paint, way back to the Redline days. This is a popular little buggy. Features metal on metal, and with the green paint, it's actually slightly harder to find than yellow painted versions. I would say this vehicle is worth around $10 to $15. The Spoiler Sport. The last time we saw it in green, it had two windows, separated by a narrow metal bar in the back. Now it features the single rear window and the parachute, just as we saw on the yellow Hulk versions of 1979. This is the most common version of Spoiler Sport you can find, and is worth around $5 to $10 in mint loose condition. The Stutz Blackhawk. A brand new casting for 1980 and one of my favorites. This is based on a real car. It's got the spare wheel in the back with the silver metal from the base poking through. Really nice car. Very heavy duty. And probably worth around $10 to $15 mint loose. It is a pretty easy vehicle to find and will be released in several colors over the next few years. Super Scraper. Once again, this one will be seen in later years with a Malaysia base. Otherwise, no differences. Hard to find these in play with condition without a broken or twisted plow on the front, as it is only connected by a small piece of orange plastic. In this condition, which is perfectly mint, I would say it's worth around $20 to $30. The Super Van makes it into the lineup as always. For 1980, white with the same flame tampos we've seen on it over the years. Hong Kong base. A Malaysia base of this exact vehicle will be released in 1982. And Hong Kong, Malaysia base, pretty much worth about the same. They're both pretty equally easy to find in my opinion. I would say around $15 to $20 for a mint version of this vehicle. The Tricar X8, another real-life version of a Bonneville Salt Flats drag racing vehicle powered by a turbine engine. Really cool vehicle in real life as well as being a Hot Wheel. It's got a plastic rubbery fin, very flexible. Usually always there even on the most played with and destroyed versions. It's got a very thin wheel on the front. Two rivets hold it together, all metal. This is a prototype. It has no markings on the base whatsoever. Oh no, sorry. This is the common version to find, the Hong Kong base. You can also find it with a Malaysia base in 1982. I also have a prototype here which has absolutely no markings and no cast dates or names on the base. Interesting little variation. I didn't spend a lot for it. I think it was about 40 bucks. This one here really is only worth about 5 bucks. They're just everywhere and not the most popular of Hot Wheels, unfortunately, even with its rich history. The Teetotaler makes its third color appearance for 1980. First black, then brown, now red, still featuring a gold base. Same tampos as seen from its first debut, back when it was found in red lines as well. This red version is a harder vehicle to find, just as the brown one was, the black being probably the easiest with the Blackwall wheels. I would say it's worth around $20 in mint loose condition. Up front 924 also makes a reappearance, now with orange paint instead of yellow. This one still features the same Tampa work from years prior. Beautiful condition car. Love this little Porsche. And it's worth around $15 mint loose. The Turbo Mustang makes its debut as a new casting for 1980 and probably a very favorited featured car throughout the years. Definitely amongst kids and collectors alike, the Fox Body Mustang. We did see a Scorchers car that was quite similar, the Ford Capri of the time. It appears that they've used a lot of the same dimensions and body parts from that Scorcher car as this Turbo Mustang. However, it is a new casting nonetheless, metal on metal, and really cool car. Love this car, one of my absolute favorites. This car would be found later on with the gold Hot One wheels, however that was a 1982 release. In this condition, expect to pay around $15 to $25 for this car. The Z-Wiz is not a new casting. It has been seen in several paint variations back to the red line wheel days. This Hong Kong version is worth around $25. A Malaysia-based version is slightly harder to find, released in 1982, but we'll get to that in the appropriate video. Regardless, both cars are basically worth about the same and really quite a collectible piece. The Greyhound MC8. This is an actual bus, and it is quite a heavy casting. Scale is completely off from the other vehicles, but in line with Hot Wheels' larger scale trucks such as the highway hauler and construction equipment and Peterbilts and all that, minus the forklifts. Anywho, this Hong Kong based version, released 1980, is worth slightly more than a Malaysia based version at around $30 in mint loose condition. You don't want to be slamming this one into anyone's foot while they're walking through the kitchen because it will hurt. It weighs a ton. The same cannot be said for the highway hauler. This truck is in its first format for the name, as many years later, decades later, the highway hauler is a different vehicle, spelt slightly differently. This one H-I-W-A-Y, hauler if you're looking it up, whereas the newer version is H-I-G-H-W-A-Y, hauler. Anywho, this vehicle has a black plastic box on the back with opening doors. You can look into the casting and see the axles and wheels. They clip shut. Play with versions often feature the tampos rubbed almost clean off the side of it, and often this fragile plastic box finds its way completely missing from the vehicle. The highway hauler is worth between $30 and $40 in mint loose condition. For all of the construction equipment you see here, CAT, we call them, short for Caterpillar, the actual brand name of the construction vehicles that we are looking at. Here we have the Caterpillar Bulldozer. This one features interesting little hydraulic pieces that allow the front shovel to move up and down. They also have rubber tracks, which I will not be trying to test here because I don't want them to break apart from old age. This thing is in absolutely mint condition, which is pretty much unheard of, as construction vehicles that were loose were often played with. Obviously the most fun pieces of toy and equipment a child can have in a sandbox. This one here would be worth around $25 to $30 in this condition. Next we have the Caterpillar dump trucks, featuring metal bucket boxes that open up and shut rather solidly. We have one here with the metal cast C and the number underneath. I think it's a 777 Caterpillar on the front. All metal construction, quite a heavy piece, Hong Kong base. This version here has the Tampo on the side versus the cast C. So a Tampo C777 replaces the cast portion. Still a Hong Kong base on this one as well. Both of these vehicles are very hard to find in this condition mint loose, and will probably run you between $15 and $20 each. The Caterpillar wheel loader features a fully articulated bucket and arm, as seen throughout the years well into the 1990s. This is a fun piece for all kids. However, this one here has the variation C988 Tampo on the back. It features a small opening around the air cleaner at the back of it and a short exhaust stack. These variations will come to light as I show you future variations. This tractor has been released in basically the same paint configuration for well over 2 decades, and so those small variations do play a part in it. However, for this year, 1980, the easiest way to know you have a 1980 version is that it has the Hong Kong base and it isn't stamped over. Stamped over as in there's no bar over Hong Kong with Hong Kong re-stamped on it. This tractor was a hard one to find in that condition. Given its actual authentic age, it cost me $20. Fairly easy to find are these Caterpillar forklifts. Again, we have the variation with the cast C something, CYR on the bottom. And this one has the tampoed version. Oh, sorry, CV80. It's hard to see for me, but the camera picks it up a lot better since we can zoom in. Often played with versions are missing the black plastic roll cage roof thing, as well as the forks are broken off oftentimes, sometimes entirely. This is a moving fork. It does go up and down and pivots forward slightly. I'm not going to play with these extensively because I don't want to break them. Both feature a Hong Kong base and are worth around $20 to $30 a piece in mint loose condition. The final piece for construction is the Peterbilt cement mixer. This one has an actual turning cement mixer on the back of it. Plastic. The plastic tiltable silver structure. Oftentimes this is missing the entire assembly from Play With Examples. Hong Kong base on this truck. Peterbilt is the only name on the bottom. However, the Peterbilt chassis would be used for many different vehicles in the future, including dump trucks and tanker trucks. But for now, we have the cement mixer and the hammer down. Those are the only two first Peterbilts ever seen in 1980. The Peterbilt cement mixer is worth around $5 to $15, as most people don't know the difference between a Hong Kong version and a much more produced Malaysia version of years later. The High Rakers make their debut in 1980. This series would run for several years through the early to mid 1980s. All of the castings released in 1980 are new castings for Hot Wheels, starting with the 3-window 34, a 1934 Ford 3-window, otherwise known, featuring red paint, brown fenders, and the high raking axle, worth around $15 to $20. Next we've got the 40's Woody. Really cool casting with a big plastic body on the back of it. The whole entire door portion and roof portion is plastic. Still, one of my favorite castings of all time. This one's worth around $20. Next, we've got two variations of the Dodge D50. The first one, which is common, features the larger back wheels versus the small front wheels. And the harder to find version has all small wheels. This isn't just a random one-off error, as I have seen this vehicle sell at least 3 times on eBay. Usually not a lot of money, given how hard it is to find when you're looking for it. But again, probably because people don't know the difference in variations overall. You can see quite easily that there is a substantial size difference between the 2 rear wheels of these vehicles. Next up, we've got the Corvette Stingray. This is a 1963, and it is worth around $10 to $15 in this condition. Turbo Wedge, pretty cool little car, pretty simple. Has a black plastic or a yellow plastic spoiler. I don't know why I thought it was black, but anyways, this one's worth around $5 to $10. The Vet Van, probably one of the most common high rakers you can find, also worth only around $5 to $10 due to its popularity back in the time. It was produced in great numbers. Several of these vehicles will be found with Malaysia bases in later years, specifically 1982 and onwards. These are all the Hong Kong based versions we looked at. That concludes the 1980 Hot Wheels Historian video, and next up we've got 1981. Lots of cool cars still left to look at. Well, more than we've even looked at in previous videos. We've started these videos in 1974. Thank you for all of those that are enjoying these videos, tuning in and giving me a comment or two. And questions are appreciated. And of course, if you're looking for these, happy hunting.